Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the upcoming Fireside Chat. My name is Marc Penzel, and I'm founder and president at Startup Genome. Since 2012, our team has published the Global Startup Ecosystem Report, in which we assess and rank the world's top innovation hubs. This ranking has become an important asset to the global startup community. But what's even more important to me is how we work with public and private sector leaders to ensure we create a startup community that is globally inclusive and works for everyone. Consider that the top 10 startup ecosystems in the world still capture as much as 70% of the global value that's created in our space. We at Startup Genome strongly believe that the success of your startup should not depend on your region, your gender, your ethnicity, or social background. In the context of the current crisis, this is more important than ever. We need thoughtful public policy as well as a committed private sector to accelerate underserved communities. Let's spread the genome of successful startup ecosystems everywhere. Today, I'm excited to speak with Rowan Barnett to learn more about what Google and Googleorg is doing to bridge the gap, particularly in these times. Rowan leads Google's philanthropy, Googleorg, in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. He joined Google back in 2017, where he previously led Google for Startups efforts, focused on expanding access and increasing diversity in the tech ecosystem. Prior to that, Rowan was a senior director at Twitter, responsible for their market development across Europe and emerging markets. Rowan, it's fantastic to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
So we'll have just about 13, 14 minutes of your time. So let's get right into it. To kick us off, maybe you can tell us, does the private sector have a responsibility for the public good?
I think the private sector and corporate philanthropy absolutely do have a responsibility and should play an important and responsible role in sustainable development and in tackling, some of the society and some of our humanitarian challenges in partnership with the government and the public sector. I think actually that companies and corporate philanthropies have a lot of assets to bring to the development table, whether that's greater operating freedom, of course, speed of execution, but particularly, I think, a much larger capacity to focus on innovation and risk taking. So that ability to provide risk capital to support innovative programs, leverage technology, and just test and iterate quickly to prove out a model, something that's really kind of core to our work at Googleorg. That's something that's actually more challenging for the public sector to do. But governments are absolutely crucial to scale. So, just give you an example, we seeded Raspberry Pi with its first £1 million to expand its computer skills education, but it's the £78 million from a UK government consortium that enables it to really achieve scale. I think actually one of the interesting far-reaching changes that may come out of this crisis is actually acceleration of this shift in perspective of global business about purpose, about that responsibility to the public good. So moving from a shareholder first mentality to more of a belief in a responsibility to all stakeholders, and building in the likes of inclusion and sustainability into your core kind of purpose and vision as a company. And certainly at Google, we've always felt that our products and innovation should have a positive impact on the world, be helpful to people, and that's a responsibility we take very seriously. I think we do owe it to society to be responsible stewards over the technology we've created, and of course, live up to that responsibility that comes with having platforms and products that reach more than 1 billion users. And so part of that responsibility, of course, is to how do we share and empower, enable organizations, businesses, nonprofits, startups to leverage and benefit from AI, for example, or helping to train 70 million people globally to have the digital skills they need for the future through our Grow with Google program. Something that's particularly important right now, given 60 million jobs are at risk in the EU alone. And with that responsibility, I think when we succeed, others, when others succeed, we succeed as well.
Perfect. Would love to help our audience understand a bit more how Googleorg is different to Google. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about your strategic approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, Googleorg is Google's philanthropic and charitable arm, and the biggest beneficiary of the company's 1% ongoing net profit commitment, which the founders made back in 2005 when the company went public. And what we do is really focus on bringing the best of Google to help solve some of these big societal challenges. And we do that by helping accelerate nonprofits' work by bringing really a unique blend of support, which is, $200 million in funding each year, but combining that with innovation, technology, technical expertise to really provide support and opportunity for underserved communities. And I think it's when you're rooted in a fundamental approach and a strategy like that, it enables us just to adapt as the world changes or as crisis hits. And so obviously when the pandemic hit, along with most of the company, we shifted a lot of our efforts really to tackling that. We committed 100 million in grants, as well as 50,000 hours of Googler expertise. And we focused on 3 areas where we felt that we could have the most impact with our resources and our people. One was health and science. So, as an engineering company, leveraging AI, data science, applying that to provide better analytics, mapping. We focused a lot of efforts around distance learning and ensuring, and enabling equitable access for the 1.5 billion kids that just physically couldn't get to school. So working with long-term grantees such as Khan Academy. And of course, economic relief and recovery was critical, and supporting vulnerable and underserved communities to both get through the crisis, but also then help them bounce back.
Perfect, thank you. And speaking of underserved communities, we struggled defining what a startup is, and we're also struggling a little bit with defining what underserved communities are. What's your definition of an underserved community, and who are you targeting with your intervention?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, underserved communities differ across regions and countries. And of course, they also evolve according to social, humanitarian, political, economic changes. And I think in many countries belonging to a racial or ethnic minority, or being a woman, can correlate highly to a kind of a lower socioeconomic status and lower access to opportunity. And those are obviously 2 indicators of a community of people that are likely to be underserved. At Google.org, our philanthropic lens also includes support for those that are most vulnerable and furthest removed from the opportunity. So they may have financial, educational, economic barriers that prevent them from adapting to the changing workplace, or upskilling into new jobs. And actually, even during this crisis, many groups have just struggled even to put food on the table, such as marginalized daily wage worker families in India, who we've been supporting with cash assistance through Give India. Yeah,
in this situation, in this new normal, we see that underserved community are disproportionately affected by the crisis. I'm wondering, has your focus shifted in any way in your response to the current pandemic?
So I'd start by saying that certainly if, as a society, if we're measured by our ability to protect the most vulnerable people, then I think this current crisis has exposed a global failure as a society to do that. Research has shown how the pandemic has exacerbated existing inequality in health and education, employment, and also, of course, the digital divide. And that will mean disproportionately affecting minority groups, immigrant communities, Black people, the disabled, low-paid workers. To give you a couple of recent examples, there was some UK government data that revealed the devastating effects of COVID on people of color, with Black people 4 times more likely to die from coronavirus than white people, and 3 times as likely in the US. I was also reading this week a report that came out by our grantee in Ireland, Belong to Youth Services, which who focus on supporting young LGBTQI people. And that report said that 93% of the community are struggling with anxiety, stress, depression as a result of the lockdown. So I think we've got still a lot of research to do to understand the effects of COVID and how to respond. We're doing research or supporting research with our grantee JPAL, looking at how vulnerable workers around the world are being impacted, and how do we design effective policy responses to help them. Certainly one place, where we've been seeing these disparities come to life is among small businesses and entrepreneurs. Look at the data in so many countries, and small businesses have, often less than 3 months of cash left on hand. And, the longer lockdowns go on, the more precarious that situation becomes. And of course, those that are most affected are businesses that are led by vulnerable people in the first place. So we gave a $5 million grant to Youth Business International to provide critical support services and mentoring across EMEA and APAC. And we just this week launched a $3.3 million grant to the Asia Foundation to extend digital literacy training to marginalized communities across Southeast Asia. So I think there's so much work we need to do in this moment. But I think what is really important as we build back our societies and build back our economies is not just to think about, how do we provide the relief short term, but really think about how do we amplify their voices? How do we enable them to come in and lead the change towards a more equitable society in the future?
Absolutely. And talking about your contribution to this, Googleorg is leveraging technology and expertise. Can you talk a bit more about how you're doing that effectively right now?
Yes, absolutely. So Google volunteering is, it's a huge part of our approach as a philanthropy. And I would actually say that Googlers are probably our superpower in our toolkit. So we always try and complement our funding with Googlers, Google employees. And, so for instance, we're looking to engage hundreds of volunteers to support both Youth Business International and the Asia Foundation with mentorship and training. And, that's part of actually a 5-year goal to contribute 1 million volunteering hours. But in addition to these short-term engagements, we see a huge value when we go deeper. So organizations that we work with consistently tell us that they want to leverage advanced tech, AI, data, to increase the impact of their work. But it can be, of course, really difficult to find, to afford and retain the right talent as a nonprofit. And so we started the Googleorg Fellowship, which is a pro bono program that matches Google experts with Googleorg grantees for 6 months on full-time technical projects. And they work alongside their nonprofit staff to ensure that work also has a sustained impact in the organization. So right now we have 31 fellows working on 4 COVID-specific fellowships, civic fellowships, where we've had Googleorg fellows join the New York governor's COVID-19 technology SWAT team. They're building a platform that's going to better connect residents to the right social services. We have 5 fellows working with Médecins Sans Frontières, who are applying AI and machine learning to develop new epi models that are going to monitor the spread of the virus and provide that real-time information to governments and healthcare systems.
Thank you very much, Ron. We have 2 minutes left, and I would love to turn a bit to the startup ecosystems and the founders, many of which are listening, or many of which government leaders representing those founders are listening. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you're supporting founders and ecosystems?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also reading the Startup Genome Global Startup Ecosystem Report, and also actually your interesting op-ed on the World Economic Forum, where you outline how this crisis has put startups and startup ecosystems everywhere in danger, in need of support. I think the report said that over 60% of startups had laid off employees and reduced salaries. So absolutely critical to support entrepreneurs in this moment. Entrepreneurs have always been the engines of change. Startups are going to be absolutely essential as we look to kind of revitalize our economies, as we look to bounce back from recession. And so I'm confident in the inherent qualities of entrepreneurs to do that kind of scrappiness, the willingness to pivot, the innovation, and many will successfully navigate, no doubt. But I am worried about underrepresented founders who, even before the crisis, had a disproportionate lack of access to capital and support networks, people of color, minorities, women. 93% of funds raised by European venture capital-backed companies in 2018 went to all male founding teams. And so, of course, these founders are going to be the hardest hit in times like this. Will have the least reserves to kind of fall back on the network. So Google for Startups has been really focused over the last years working with partners and organizations to close this gap, connecting underrepresented founders to resources, tools, people, and ensuring basically that everyone, that's really at the heart of the mission, ensuring that everyone of all backgrounds can access the tech ecosystem. We just announced 2 accelerator programs for Black founders, one in the US, which is accepting applications until end of June as a quick plug, and one also for Europe-based startups, which is going to be starting applications in July. We've also launched a 5 million cash award fund alongside that, and Googleorg has also come alongside a $200 million investment fund from Google with 20 million in grants to provide underserved Black, minority, and female entrepreneurs and small businesses with access to capital. So there's a lot that we're trying to do there to support this very critical people and businesses.
Amazing. Rowan, I wish we could chat more, but I'm looking at the time, and unfortunately, we've already come to an end of the session. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for giving our audience a bit of an understanding what the Google philanthropy is doing. Thank you for all your fascinating work to support these communities and entrepreneurs. To everyone watching, please take note that the Startup Genome team launched its Global Startup Ecosystem Report today. We'd very much welcome you to download it and see us at our booth if you have any questions. Thanks so much for tuning in. Rowan, thanks again so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Thank you.